I know we're running short on time, but I wanted to ask sort of a broader question about the MAGA movement, which, you know, your father basically single-handedly, by the
Yeah.
force of his personality and will, refashioned the Republican Party into this
Yeah.
incredible movement. And as he looks to exit the scene at some point in the near future, Eric, how do you see the MAGA movement continuing, or does it I don't want to say
Yeah.
die, but does it diminish when he's not, leading
Yeah.
it? Or who do you see as the heir apparent to carry the MAGA movement forward, and where does it go from here?
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, I'm not sure if I've been asked that, but in a very different context. Listen, I would have told you that call it 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago during the first administration, there probably wasn't an heir apparent. My father was in Washington D.C. rhino hunting, right? Every day was a Ben Sass or was one of these people, right? I mean, my father shot more rhinos in Washington D.C. than right. I mean, he eliminated most of the rhino class, and what came out of that? People who were able to fight, people who had a loud voice, people who wouldn't be silenced, people who would stand up for right and wrong. And so I think if you look at kind of the Bush party of politics, the McCain party of the Republicans versus kind of the MAGA movement today, I think you just have a very different group of people in there. And I think the group in there today is younger, they're stronger, they're louder, they're less enamored by the system and probably more determined to do great. And so my father really rewrote the rules of politics. And so to your question, I think 10 years ago that would have been hard. Who's the heir apparent? I think that's a hard question. I think right now there's a lot of heir apparents. I mean, I know JD very well. He's a wonderful guy. I mean, clearly he's one of them. Marco Rubio, a wonderful guy. He's clearly one of them. But there's 100 names. I mean, look at my wife. I don't mean
Yeah.
to kind of shell in nepotism here for a second, but here's somebody that was very new to politics, but incredibly capable person, as you guys saw. She went in, despite the fact that the Democrats were mocking her every day. She took over the RNC. She quadrupled their fundraising. She cut 3/4 of the people out of it. She stopped buying, lavish flower displays, and she went in and she turned out the early vote. She, made damn sure that there was going to be voter integrity in states across the country, right? She marched millions of people out to the polls. Again, she raised record sums. And she's become an incredible voice and there's a million of them, and so
Well,
I think we
can
have.
I ask you, I guess,
Please.
why is it a jump ball when we have these discussions about who the heir is between a Vice President JD Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio? Normally, wouldn't the assumption be, hey, JD Vance is the next man up. He's the one who's going to run in 2028. Is that an open question in your mind?
Listen, I mean, I think unlike the Democrats, we're going to actually have a process, right? No disrespect. Well, maybe a lot of disrespect to the other side, but I mean, no one had ever seen somebody. I mean, how many delegates did Kamala get in a 24-hour period of time, right? Like they literally threw Biden to the wolves, and then miraculously, like 18 hours later, she had secured every single delegate to all vote for her in a miraculous fashion. I mean, give me a break. Like, tell me that wasn't the greatest coup that wasn't talked about by anybody. On the Republican side of the ticket, And by the way, it was interesting with Kamala that happened because she was the first to drop out of the race in 2020 with absolutely zero support in the polls. So the person who was the first to drop out, who had zero support, all of a sudden miraculously just embodied the hearts and minds of the entire democratic process. Give me a break, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, why is it a jump ball? I think JD certainly has a leg up being vice president. He's amazing. He's the right age. He's got the right temperament. He would certainly have my vote. I love the guy to death. He's fantastic. But we're actually, I'm sure in this country, going to go through a process where people will probably run off against each other in the Republican primaries, and the people that are actually chosen by Republicans in this country will actually be the person who stands on the ballot against the Democrats in 2028. And so just to say that his name should be eliminated, it shouldn't be eliminated, right? And by the way, if we're stupid enough to eliminate other powerful people in the Republican Party, we're no better than the Democrats were in 2024 when they tried to pull the greatest coup in the history of politics, which no one wants to acknowledge.
What role do you think your father will play in that primary competition?
A large
Certainly,
one.
he's not going back to Mar-a-Lago just to golf.
If there's one thing that we can probably all agree on in the political circles, it's probably my father will play a very, very large role. I mean, it's his endorsements, like it or not, from very, but his endorsements have been incredibly powerful. He endorses somebody, 99.9% of the time they win. And listen, I study politics like you guys do, and I can name very few exceptions to that rule. Maybe you can mention one, but I doubt is short of like a catastrophe happening. So listen, I think he's going to probably be a big part of that. And frankly, as kind of the founder of the new Republican Party, he probably deserves to be a big part of that.